tres, cuatro.
What's up, guys? It's been a while. I really haven't had much to talk about, but yeah, there's been some stuff lately, and I guess I could kind of talk about it now. Apparently, the natives are restless. They're angry with NASCAR because NASCAR gave them what they wanted, and now they realize we didn't really want this. What am I talking about? Well, the big thing is all of a sudden everybody's upset over this Kansas race and the fact that Kevin Harvick just couldn't pass Joey Logano. So let's get into this aero package that everyone is screaming about. I remember about two and a half years ago. I don't remember exactly when, but it was the All-Star race at Charlotte. And NASCAR came out with this experimental new package. And the whole idea behind that package was to try out a package that would promote pack racing, because everyone loves Daytona and Talladega. I don't, but everybody else does. And they figured if we could find a way to make this happen at more tracks, surely this will please everybody. So they came out with this package at the All-Star race, and turned out to be a somewhat exciting race, I'll admit. And everyone got excited. And after the race, everyone went on social media, made videos, everything, screaming about how awesome that type of race was at Charlotte, at the All-Star race. I remember one guy in particular. I'm not going to name names because I don't like doing that, and I'm not here to talk down about other people. We all make mistakes. I've said things where maybe I was wrong about something. So it happens, right? But there was one guy in particular who came out and said, NASCAR, this is what we want. We want to see this everywhere. You need to do this every week. And other people started joining that same bandwagon. And I said, don't these people see what I see? I mean, yeah, it was somewhat exciting, but there was something gimmicky about it. I've always said that pack racing is just a manipulated form of racing, meaning that there is very little that really rests in the driver's hands. You know, you're stuck in a pocket of air that you have very little control over. I've never really cared for pack racing, but a lot of people love it. And I saw something in that race that to me stuck out, and I'm like looking at how everyone is excited, and I'm saying, why aren't they seeing what I see? So I made a video, and I said, listen guys, be careful what you ask for, because this isn't going to work everywhere. This can't work for 400 or 500 miles. This worked at Charlotte during the All-Star race, which is a much, much shorter race that's chopped up into a bunch of crazy segments, right? It's an All-Star race, so they spice it up, they add all these extra stuff, and so what happens is it's a short race with lots of restarts. And the one thing that this package does well is create exciting restarts. This is why at every track you see these You see these guys go 4 wide at tracks where back in the old days you never saw that. Because with this package, it's high downforce, low horsepower, and on fresh tires, you can run wide open for a few laps on a restart. So everybody's wide open on a restart, and they're just going to take whatever they can. So you can run 4 wide into turn 1 wide open and not worry about the car getting loose because, you got maximum downforce. These cars are glued to the track with this package, so you can kind of do that, the same way you do at Daytona and Talladega. So the restarts are exciting for that reason. But for me, I never bought into that because I understand that these guys are wide open. There's not much else you can do. So yeah, it's somewhat exciting, but at the same time, there's no real chance of somebody, overdriving the car, getting loose, or things. I mean, it does happen, right? Naturally, but not that often. And in the old days, before all this dirty air became a thing, you had lots of horsepower, not that much downforce. You could not drive wide open. At these tracks, you had to feather the throttle. You had to find that point where you were getting the maximum out of the car and the tires without going over that knife's edge. And that takes a lot more skill to me than just going wide open on a restart. You just got to worry about if there's an opening, take it. So when you're watching it on TV or even in the stands, it looks exciting because it's like, look, they're 4 wide. This is crazy. But if you really understand the physics of what's happening, it's kind of less challenging because even though you're not 4 wide the way it used to be back in the day, you had almost too much power, not enough grip, even on fresh tires. You really had to be careful. And it's the guy that could find that knife's edge that could get out in front. And then every lap, it becomes a war of attrition. Who can get these laps without making mistakes, making small adjustments, always maintaining the maximum grip and without going over the edge, and understanding how to manage their tires. I'm not going to say it's a lost art, but it just doesn't play the same role anymore. So when you're watching the race, it looks more exciting because everybody's all bunched up. That's what the package is meant to do. But it's not as competitive as the old way of racing is because you really had to, it was more in the driver's hands. When you allow these guys to go wide open at these tracks, what else can you do when your foot's already down to the floor? Now you're completely dependent on draft. And as you saw yesterday, Kevin Harvick clearly had the better car. He kept catching Logano, but once he caught him, there's that bubble of air. And he actually, not only does he hit a wall because he can't pass, but he also helps the car in front, which was Logano, by that little bubble of air that's between the tail of Logano's car and the nose of Harvick. There's that little bubble there. And he gets just close, but he can't make the pass. But he's also pushing Logano. So he's actually helping Logano get away. So it's this constant accordion. Ooh, he's catching him, but no, he can't pass. But Logano kind of stretches out again because he gets that little push. And people are tired of it. And now people they're all saying they've had enough. This package isn't working, blah, blah, blah. And it's the last straw. And I wonder if a lot of these guys would say this if, like, their favorite driver won, or if it was the new golden boy, Chase Elliott, winning. I don't care about any of those particular drivers. I don't like Harvick. I don't like Logano. I couldn't care less. But it's got to be frustrating. Harvick had the better car, and he should have been able to pull that out, and he didn't. And all Logano had to do was stay more or less in his way. So, lo and behold, they're upset now, and they're telling NASCAR this is terrible. Now, here's where I come in. Most of these people that are right now upset and telling you how awful this is were the same people that were screaming about how awesome that All-Star race was 2.5 years ago. When I told you guys, and I those of you who've been watching my videos for, the long-term viewers, you'll remember that I talked about it. And I explained to you that the All-Star race is not a good gauge for any of these packages because it creates a false view of what a real race is. An All-Star race is short, a ton of restarts because of all those stages, not including any cautions. So that All-Star race was exciting because it was a whole bunch of restarts. And every restart, these guys were all, 3-4 wide, and it was hectic. So you walk away saying, wow, that's amazing. Can we get 400 or 500 miles of that? Please, NASCAR, do this every week. And NASCAR, to their credit, see, everybody right now is complaining about NASCAR, but NASCAR, and I'm very critical of them, but they deserve credit for this because they gave fans what they wanted. NASCAR actually listens to the fans, and they actually did everything in their power to create the package that they thought fans wanted. And how many times have you heard me say, be careful what you wish for because you might just get it? NASCAR fans got what they wanted. This is what you wanted with this Aero package. I warned you guys about this way back then. I told you guys this will not work every week at every track. 400, 500-mile races. And thank God for these stages that a lot of people complain about. The stages are actually a good addition to the sport. Could you imagine not having any breaks except for cautions? So thanks to these restarts, you at least had some of these exciting restarts. Like I said, the one thing this package pretty much guarantees is exciting restarts. But you can't have one thing without the other. Compromises are always made. And that's how these packages work. Okay? You're going to get these tightly grouped packs of cars fighting for the first few laps on a restart for position. But once everybody starts falling in line, now you start noticing the problems. How hard it is to pass. Now, you do see lots of passing in these races. But these passes happen because the car making the pass is way better than the car in front of them. And if you're that much better than the car in front of you, then you can overcome that aero push and that dirty air. It's when you get closer to the front where you start seeing less and less passing. Because those cars are better than those other cars in the back. So now, if you're Kevin Harvick, even though your car is better than Logano, it's not better. It's not by enough of a margin. Now he's better by maybe 1/10 or 2/10, but not enough to overcome all the issues that this aero package brings. So now he repeatedly catches Logano like a yo-yo, but every time he gets near him, he hits that wall of air and he starts falling back because he just helped give Logano a slight push. So what good is it catching the guy if you can't pass him? And this is what fans are seeing and complaining about. Well, you can't have these exciting restarts that this aero package brings without introducing those issues. And I've said this from day one. I'd rather have less of those exciting restarts if it means the rest of the race you're going to have drivers who can actually get up on that wheel and play with the throttle and squeeze the most they can out of the car. Get that extra tenth or two. Manage tires. Make it more about mechanical grip and the decisions made on the pits and making these changes to the car to try to improve throughout the race. That's what real NASCAR racing has historically been about. And now, in the past few years, this aero problem is not new. Aero has always been a part of NASCAR, but never to this extent. And this low horsepower, high downforce package is an extreme failure. NASCAR needs less downforce and higher horsepower. Now my hope is that with this next gen car, that is where they're going. We're not going to know until they actually go out on the track and you see 40 cars on the track. But I'm telling you now, if you see these guys running wide open at places like Kansas or other mile-and-a-half tracks, that is a huge red flag, and that is a quick determination that this package, whatever they're running, needs to be addressed. Give me a quick second. Alright, I just had to plug in the laptop, losing power, but that's a red flag. So I'm telling you now, if you see these next gen cars running wide open at Kansas or Vegas or these other tracks, that's a problem. That's a problem. You better add horsepower or reduce downforce or both. This is why when you look back to the golden era of NASCAR and the racing was better, well, it was better because you didn't have all of these ridiculous aero issues. Those cars were not as aerodynamic. You didn't have these cars sealed to the ground. You actually could see daylight underneath the car. And those cars were lower than, they weren't like cars that you buy at the showroom. They were low to the ground, but you could see daylight underneath the car. You can't now. These cars are sucked down to the ground. So, I think I could say I told you so. I said it after that All-Star race, and all these guys now that are complaining, most of them, they were the first ones out there screaming about NASCAR. We need this at every racetrack. And I told you guys, this pack racing mentality is stupid. And I know I'm one of the few people who hates Daytona Talladega racing, these conga lines. I don't find those things interesting. And look at Talladega from 2 weeks ago. The only real entertainment from that race were the wrecks. That was another crappy restrictor plate race. I don't get what people like watching 3-4 hours of a conga line. And speaking of that race, I'm going to say something now. I was going to do a video on this, and I bit my tongue. I just left it alone. But now that I'm talking about this, let me tell you something, man. NBC should be ashamed of themselves, and I hope NASCAR, I don't know what NASCAR did, but if I was, upper management in NASCAR, I would be livid with NBC for cutting away from the end of that race. You let people sit through 4 hours of boring restrictor plate racing, sit through 2 red flags, and then at the very end, with only a handful of laps left, you cut away to the news, and then you never go back to the race. You don't even tell people you're going to have to tune into NBC Sports to see the finish of this race. I don't remember them announcing that. Maybe I missed it. But what NBC did was horrendous. They don't do this for football, basketball, or baseball. I realize that NASCAR is not on that level, but it's still a major sport. And you would never see them cut away from overtime of a basketball or football game or extra innings in a baseball game. You stay with the race till the conclusion. And anything short of World War III breaking out, the news can wait. That was atrocious what they did. That really pissed me off. And I sat through a crappy race for almost 4 hours only to miss the end of the race. I didn't even know the race was over till enough time went by. I'm like, the red flag has to be over. I go on my phone, I go and I see, finishing results. The race was over. I hope that the upper hierarchy at NASCAR had a long talk with NBC. I'd be fucking livid. You respect our sport, okay? The same way you would the NFL, basketball, or baseball. You don't cut away at the end of the race and not even tell people where to tune in to watch the finish. That was atrocious. That shit pissed me the fuck off. I hope NASCAR addressed it. I hope they spoke to NBC. I don't fucking know. I gotta assume that they did. Because I'd be fucking livid. Or if I was a sponsor, one of these big money sponsors, and you don't show the end of the race, I'd be fucking livid too with NBC. That was atrocious. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. So, as you guys know, when there's something to criticize NASCAR about, I'm willing to do it. But I'm not going to criticize NASCAR over this aero package because you guys asked for it. Not everybody, but those of you who know who I'm talking about. If you remember back then how excited you were about that aero package in that All-Star race, and I fucking told you, I said, this is not going to work. This is not going to work every week for 400 or 500 miles. This worked at an all-star race in a very condensed version of a race. This isn't something to gauge this package on. And pack racing sucks. So you get these cars to run a little closer together. It hasn't equaled better racing. Some of these races have been good. But that's besides the point. That not because of the package, in spite of it. And now you see these changes that NASCAR is making to the schedule. They've added 6. I mean, we have a total of 6 road course races, and people are like advocating for getting rid of more of these 1.5 mile tracks. When these 1.5 mile tracks have been a huge part of NASCAR historically. Some of the best races in NASCAR history are at 1.5 mile tracks. The problem isn't the fucking track. The problem is the package. If you bring back, the high horsepower, reduce that fucking the aero and the downforce by any means necessary, I promise you, you're gonna get better racing. You're not gonna get these 4 wide restarts, but the rest of the race is gonna be more exciting. Cars are gonna be able to make more passes. Now, if your car is a little bit better, you could get up on that wheel, squeeze out that extra tenth or two, and just get that car in front of you to make a mistake, whatever it is. That's edge of your seat racing and excitement. Not watching guys struggle to get through a dirty wall of air. And now everybody's upset. But what I don't hear these guys saying is, you know what, I'm one of the ones that was screaming at NASCAR to give us this package, and now that the package is a proven failure, I was wrong. We all make mistakes. But if you were wrong on this, then just be honest. And it's not one person. It's like everyone's doing it. All of a sudden, everybody's on the same train now. The same people that were all on the pro aero package train are now on the train of anti-aero package. All of a sudden, this was the last straw. We've been watching this for 2 fucking years. And I told you, as soon as people started making those videos, begging NASCAR to bring that all-star package to every race, I fucking warned you guys. I told you this was going to not end well. And this package has set NASCAR back. Now, there's a chance that with this new gen car coming in 2022, that it will address these issues. So I got my fingers crossed that they do address those issues. But the only thing NASCAR needs to do is focus and pay attention. And if you see that these cars are running wide open throttle at 1.5-mile tracks, then you got a problem. That is your clear indicator there that you need to do something. And if it's not enough horsepower, you're going to have to raise it. And if it's too much fucking downforce, you're going to have to reduce that downforce somehow. And I've always advocated for raising the ride height of these cars just a bit. An inch would make a world of difference. Get that air under the car that creates turbulence and upsets the car. These cars shouldn't be sucked down to the fucking track where there's no daylight. That's not good. Those are my thoughts. I said what I had to say. And it just kind of irks me to see all of these people who were screaming for NASCAR to give this package to us, to bring that all-star racing to us, and NASCAR actually listened. So I don't blame NASCAR for this. I mean, I should blame them for somewhat, because you can't just run your sport by doing whatever fans tell you, because fans don't know everything. I don't know everything. Maybe I'm saying something that fucking completely off base. I don't think I am, but I might be. And if somebody at NASCAR who's smart looks at that and says, this guy doesn't know what he's saying, this is what we need to do, then do that. But in this case, I think I can say I fucking told you so. I saw that all-star race, and I fucking told you guys. I don't know what you guys are all excited about. This is a manipulated form of racing. I don't want to see more fucking pack racing. And people complain about these cars. They're too spread out. Well, guess what? The only time you get any excitement where there's possible racing, passing up front is when they catch lap cars. When lap cars play a role and it creates opportunities for that guy in second or third to make a pass, that's it. If it's not for those lap down cars, you're going to see more of what you saw yesterday with Harvick and Logano. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I look forward to your comments. Later.